Thanks for joining us. This is 8 to 5 engagement with Transcend Employee Engagement. Glad to have you aboard. This is our very first show. And my name's Aaron. I'm the general manager for Transcend Engagement. About me, I spent 20 years in the military, active duty, and then decided to go out in the real world and get a real job. Here I am today, working in an engagement employee. So I am very happy to be here and very happy to be blessed with my co-host, Charlie Giroux. Please tell us all about you, Charlie.
Thanks, Aaron. My name's Charlie Giroux. As Aaron said, I am the Senior Account Executive for Transcend Employee Engagement, and I have been with Transcend for coming up on 3 years. Prior to that, I've been in outside sales with Ritz-Carlton hotel companies and then an oil company as well. So all of my experience has either been in operations or sales.
We're all in different industries, but we're all dealing with the same issues, right? So I'm a believer in correlation. I believe that we should always be presenting the so what or real life examples behind what's going on instead of just throwing facts out there, because we all have the experience. And with that comes collaboration, which is why I believe we should have the subject matter experts when we're talking about a particular topic. So today we are going to be talking about working remotely, and who better than to have as a guest than our friend from the state of First to Flight. And on her LinkedIn page says, what was it, a 5'3" or a 5'0" walk on to a Division I college program, something like that. So I'm assuming if you're that short, you're probably playing point, right? Well,
Yes.
Anyway, I'll let her talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, Liz Scruggs from Instant Teams.
Thank you for that introduction, Aaron. I appreciate it. Now, if you ever attended a game, you would hear that I'm 5'5", by the way. I love it, but it is so exciting to be here. My name is Liz Scruggs. I'm the Director of Sales at Instant Teams. That's where we build large, remote customer support and operation teams with military-connected talent that are located around the globe, which enable us to provide that remote support 24/7 with a very diverse workforce. I'm also an active duty military spouse.
Liz, first and foremost, I mean, your organization is very near and dear to my heart. It really is, because obviously from what I did in the last 20 years, but thank you for what you do for military spouses. Thank you to your spouse for serving. And I'm reading studies right now that show anywhere from 55 to 59% of the American population currently works remotely, either in a hybrid or a full-time status. That 77% of remote workers say that they're more productive working from home, just like you said. Now, Charlie, we choose to have you work remote, but Liz, your people, the people that you represent, they don't really have that choice, do they? So can you tell us a little bit about the life of an active duty spouse and why your organization is so important?
Yeah, remote work lends itself really good to this community. One of the biggest challenges when you move so often, and we've moved 9 times in 11 years. And when you do that, it can be challenging to build a career with a company. And you're always, sometimes you can feel like you're starting over, or even though it's a little archaic of a mentality, because everybody kind of hops around now, you still get asked that question, why are there gaps in your resume? Or why did you only stay in this position for 18 months? So the evolution of remote work and more companies being open to that has solved a lot of challenges for the military spouse community and have allowed us to find companies that value the skill sets that military spouses bring to the table, that are going with the remote work option, which have now allowed us the opportunity to build careers and show that we're loyal with these companies, and that maybe some of our decisions or why there was, so much career transition was not because we necessarily chose to do that. We were supporting our service members' career and moving around with them and had to make very difficult professional decisions.
Wow. I thought my 5 moves in 20 years was something. 9 and 11, that's insane. That wow.
I was 15 in 16 years.
Wow.
Well, that's right. Weren't you a military kid too, Charlie? Or no, your dad was.
My dad was close. It was construction.
Oh, okay.
Back in the 70s and 80s, that was the thing. If you wanted to advance, you had to be transferable. And if you weren't, your career kind of took a nosedive.
Nice.
Yeah. People often said I was military.
Yeah.
If you had met my dad, maybe I was, and I didn't know it.
That explains your hair.
Well, yeah, right.
Oh my goodness. So
Love it.
Liz, so like you're a champion for the military spouse. It's like these are educated people, right? I mean, we're not talking about, but the reality too has got to be, and this is just from my time on active duty, is that these bases aren't exactly in like New York City. They're not in Phoenix. They're in really remote places where there's probably not a lot of opportunities out there. So you fighting for your people for remote work has to be a pinnacle thing for you all, right?
Oh yeah, it comes from a deep, passionate place because myself, my sales team, everyone at Instant Teams, we've lived it. And when I first started telling my story of the on the ground remote company I was working, or the on the ground company, that was in Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Mm,
It was in a very
Sweet place, by the way. Sweet place.
Oh yeah.
good
And
gumbo.
it is. And some people, it depends on the branch, right? Army, we're in a lot of armpits because they need training rooms. Same with the Marines. My sister's husband's Coast Guard, and they're in beautiful locations all along the coast and the beach, and it really just depends. The community is so diverse and the needs are so diverse of the community. But you're right, Aaron, it's a very educated community for a lot of reasons, but over 60% of that workforce has bachelor's degrees and 38% has master's degrees or higher. But we fill some of those employment gaps with reskilling and upskilling ourselves. And that's what we're doing. And like I said, I went back during an employment gap, and I got my master's degree. And I did that while raising full kids, working full time. My husband was at school, and there was a lot of things going on. So with managing all that and moves in the process, I became very good at managing a lot of different things and really figuring out how to make remote work fit in that lifestyle.
So here's a question for both of you then. With remote work, what has been the hardest thing, Charlie and Liz, other than your dog barking during the meeting? What is the hardest thing about this remote work?
5th grade math. When your kids are also remote and they run in to ask you a question about some assignment because they're on a Zoom call with their teachers. No, honestly, I think the biggest thing, and Liz and I live very similar lives, I feel, in this, because to her point, when I worked for the oil company, we used, I think it was Skype. Skype's the Microsoft, meeting thing. And to Liz's point, if you let that Skype button go amber or, a different color, oh my God, you were like running back. It was almost like you needed to teach a cat to swipe your mouse and sit at your desk, because you had this fear of God, like, oh my gosh, if my light doesn't stay green, I'm not being efficient. And so whenever I would go down to our corporate office, which was at least once a quarter, I'd go into the office and I would just stand there and look around at all the people just sitting at their desks, like really not doing a whole lot of work. Yet they clocked in and they showed their face and they showed a human body, and then they clocked out at 5. In my observation, even the executives, they were talking about weekend plans. They were at lunch in the break room. They were chit-chatting with colleagues. I mean, work needs to be engaging and fulfilling on so many different fronts outside of just the work itself. And I think where remote workers get a bad scarlet letter to wear is because you're able to work from a coffee shop, or you're able to work because your kids are on spring break or summer break and you're at a pool, or you're at your living room, dining room table, that you're not efficient.
Yeah, my big aha moment with that, with the remote workplace, was when the Star Tribune in Minneapolis here showed the Target article, and it said Target permanently is going to make 1/3 of their staff hybrid.
Wow.
At least 1/3, and close off. It was because that's what Target is, a lot of what Minnesota associates with. So when you saw Big Daddy say not going to be normal anymore, that to me was like, okay, we are in a different time for sure. Absolutely. So how about you, Liz? What do you think?
I agree with a lot of the things Charlie had mentioned, he is spot on that fifth grade is hard.
Whew. Jeff Foxworthy is a smart guy.
He is. Fifth grade is hard. And it's the same thing. We talked about establishing boundaries. For me, when this first started at the very beginning back in 2013, Charlie, it was putting a paperweight on the control key to keep me engaged. That Liz was, I was so afraid that if I was not sitting, at my computer, being in the remote environment, that the assumption would be Liz is not working. And even, the evolution of remote work, seeing it evolve. I know from time to time you can hear my dog in the background, but it was funny because pre-COVID in the remote work environment, it was okay to have dogs barking in the background. But heaven forbid a kid came in and asked for help on fifth grade math homework during your Zoom call. That was considered very unprofessional.
Right.
But I think having now so many people experiencing remote work and having a taste of that and seeing the reality of it. Kids get home at 3, they come off the bus, they want a snack, they might make an appearance into the Zoom call. Mm-hmm. But what I've found is people being more open and receptive to that, and it's really humanized the remote workforce, where beforehand, I don't think we were so humanized. It was this big mystery, but it's really great to see that happening in general. And we're starting to, see a lot of company policies change as a result of that their employees are humans. I mean, you're in my house, you're in my bedroom, we have invited each other into a different part of our lives through the screen. And for me, that's been kind of just the most amazing part, is realizing the people that you work with are also human. And I think that's just been one of the best things about all of this, and more of us working remotely.
Well, and I also think, Liz, to piggyback on those comments, I've got 2 that I think piggyback on top of what you said. One, I think as employers start to see productivity either is staying the same or increasing with a remote workforce, there will become this lax of the reins of the stagecoach driver. And 2, I do think that corporate America, actually, it doesn't have to be corporate America. I mean, we're a small startup. We have Zoom meetings. You're a small startup. You have Zoom meetings. Making sure, figuring out what is that good balance, though, of a what we will soon call a normal workday, because I do find in talking with lots of customers, when I want to have a Zoom call, because I do like to see people when I'm, because I can't go out and see anybody because of too many policies. They're not letting salespeople into their offices. It's a constant no solicitation now. Is just, COVID now has given all of corporate America a permanent no solicitation marker, which I don't like. But in talking with our customers, now they're starting to get burned out on just what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
It's almost like their managers feel like, oh, I'm not going to be elected a good manager unless I've got a Zoom call every single minute of the day with my team and we're showing that we're working.
Yeah.
That is not productive. I think the same critiques that you hear about how many meetings people used to go to in a traditional office environment, they were getting burned out on meetings because they weren't productive. There was no topic, there was no agenda, there was no point to it. I think you're now starting to see that with Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever the digital media is.
Yeah.
So, hey, Charlie, I've heard that from people. So I give presentations about communicating across generations. When I was a first sergeant, I've trained thousands of people, and I've had everything from a baby boomer all the way down to a Gen Zer and everything in the middle. So I saw that firsthand when you need, in an organization, in a lifestyle where you need direct, clear and concise communications here. So the control part of it, Charlie, absolutely. Like as a manager, I can assure you that would be one of the first things that would go through my mind, would be the lack of control. But the other one is the loss of institutional knowledge. I think a lot of managers and people that are working in the C-suite worried that they're going to be losing this knowledge base that they've worked so hard to build. But in between that, then I'm talking about the ones that are fighting against against hybrid workplaces or remote workplaces, but take that with the generational appeal of this, of how they communicate now. Do you feel like if you were a manager, that it's hard to balance the two, or if you would get rid of one, that you'd have to get rid of the other? What are your guys' thoughts on that, Liz?
Absolutely not. I feel if anything, there's more tools available to help with that and to be more efficient. And I'm going to hop real quickly back to this Zoom discussion, because this has been trending lately. Citibank just came out and are doing Zoom free Fridays internally, because you're on Zoom so much. I was on a client call the other day and they said, Liz, this is crazy. And we'll continue to see this and have these discussions as remote work across a majority evolves. But they said, why does everybody schedule Zoom minutes in 30-minute chunks? Zoom meetings in 30-minute chunks. We're talking about what we used to get accomplished in a 5-minute phone call. Mm-hmm. And, it talked about the psychology of being on Zoom meetings. So even as I'm sitting here, Aaron, I'm trying to be very cognizant of looking at you, of looking at Charlie, of being aware of my appearance. Am I squinting too much? What are my hands doing?
A little.
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it in real time. And so what my mind is doing is I'm here and present and focused on this discussion, but I'm also kind of worried and trying to self-correct and what I'm doing over here and what Charlie, and so it kind of puts your mind in a strange place too. And it's exhausting. That's what people are finding, that your mind is working in a way that we're unconscious of through these Zoom calls, and it's exhausting. But, and one other thing Charlie mentioned is, the solicitation with sales, but sales specifically as an industry will not be the same. Even coming out of this, companies have realized, I don't have to send my salesperson to go do one business meeting. This is very cost effective because they can be just as productive and close a deal where I used to put them on a flight, send them over somewhere. They used to have this huge entertainment budget. Now you can just play some virtual golf and, Fortnite. I don't know. Have a
Right.
Fortnite.
You can go into your Fortnite and Roblox hotel.
Yeah, I was going to say, go build a Roblox.
You and your customer can
room.
come together. Maybe that's what we need to do, guys. Build a platform where customers and you can meet in an avatar-like environment and close a deal and show a demo product right there. Maybe
Charlie,
that is our $1 million idea right there, guys.
Charlie, it's virtual reality.
Yeah,
that's what
that scares the heck out of me.
I
can't even put the goggles on. I'm like scared to death. I'm going to walk literally off the edge of the Grand Canyon, standing in my living room.
Charlie, it's coming. We'll be able to give each other a virtual.
Oh God, I'm not ready for that. The remote workforce, yes, I agree, it's here to stay. Is it for everyone? I don't believe it is. I've got friends of mine that are. It's almost like they're eating the paint off of the walls. They can't stand it. They need that coworker. They need that water cooler conversation. They need that break room. They want to see everybody. And I go through, I can't believe I'm 15 years in remote. When I go into an office, it's like the hair on the back of my neck stands up. I'm like, how do you people come in here and sit in these isolated cubicles and offices? It's like, ugh. But I do miss the human interaction of it. So I do have to get up and leave my physical home office and go work at a Starbucks or a Breadco or wherever, just to kind of feel like, hey, give a reason to kick off your slippers, actually put on tie shoes, maybe iron a shirt,
comb your hair,
actually take care of personal hygiene things. It's key. But yeah, I watch it and I'm, so I try to stay hip. I'm hip to be square. And so I watch TMZ late at night, or I record it and I'll watch it at lunch the following day. And it's funny to watch a show that was cameras in their offices shooting the comments, the news of what's going on in arts and, or not arts, but entertainment and arts, I guess. And now they're all on Zoom, and how to your point, Liz, you're in everyone's little bedroom, their little studio apartments in California or New York. And, they're all just sitting there just talking, and they all look like caged animals.
Yeah. And, Charlie, something we've talked about, and Aaron, one of the things remote work has done has allowed people to have an opportunity for dual incomes. One thing in the military community and some of the underrepresented communities that, we tend to not think about before remote work was a thing, they might be one vehicle households which means that there has to be a forced decision of who can and can't work, or if transportation's a problem, transportation, however, working out the logistics of getting to a job based off whatever that is. But now with these opportunities to bring that remote work into the home, it's allowing more opportunities for some people to be dual income that didn't have that opportunity before. And that in itself is a game changer within the military community. It allows some financial stability there, being able to have the dual income, where before, remote work was a really big thing. So I said it was usually the spouse that had to make that hard decision to give up that income.
Yeah, it's nice to see that we've evolved where we have. It's unfortunate it took a pandemic to really fast forward us this way, but I think that we were trending in this direction anyway. COVID just kind of amplified it all. But hey, we're short on time, so we're going to do a part that I like to call quick fire. I'm going to ask a question to our two remote workers, and I'm going to start with Liz. Liz, Charlie mentioned it's hip to be square. Who sang that?
Vanilla Ice?
Not even close.
Charlie, do you know who sang?
I don't. I just remember, I can remember listening to it in the car and too hip to be square.
No. It was my favorite band growing up as a kid, Huey Lewis and the News. So,
that's why I knew it. My very first concert, to show you how old I am.
Wow, that's pretty old. All right, second question. What do you think the workplace is going to look like in 5 years, Liz?
I think it's going to be a hybrid model of remote and in person. And I think employees are going to have more freedom to choose what their office setting is.
Charlie, what do you think?
I am leaning towards what Liz just said. I will piggyback on that. However, I am cautiously optimistic that something in technology that is in the works right now is going to create something that will either push more people towards remote or more people towards the hybrid model. And I don't know what that is, but with technology advancing at such a rapid pace, it would not surprise me to have a Google, an Apple, an IBM, or a Microsoft, or somebody come up with something that's going to kind of revolutionize blow our minds from what we think today.
Okay. So, hey, last question for me. Liz, what do you love most about your job?
I love who we serve and the mission that we do. It's very important, as someone who lives it, going out and finding these opportunities. And then I love the opportunity to meet people like you and Charlie. It's what I do every day. I have the pleasure to talk and meet new people and then bring these opportunities to a community that's very deserving.
Awesome. How about you, Charlie?
Wow, there's an awful lot I like, honestly. For those of you that don't know, our founder of Transcend Engagement is my former college roommate. And I've known Dr. Bob Randall since I was 18.
Wow.
And when he approached me about this 3 years ago, I was very hesitant. Employee engagement, what is it? What does it mean? And after I got into it and started to look at our technology and meeting the ladies and gentlemen that work behind the scenes to provide our great service, it's really rewarding. And it's nice to be a small startup fighting every day with the big boys in this space and scrapping and clawing your way into a meeting with a customer. And then it's really gratifying when you talk to people like Liz who share our similar struggles. And it's even more gratifying when you're talking to a customer and you're showing them better ways to engage in a digital workforce and you see the light bulb go off above their head and you're like, they get it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It does work. You're no longer second guessing yourself on that call. You'll start second guessing yourself the next time you make the sales call. But it's just the whole experience. Working with you, Aaron, has been phenomenal, and Michael and the rest of the team in Owatonna. And it's nice knowing that I've got the support being a remote worker from an organization that isn't remote.
That you have. Love you, Charlie. Hey, Liz, thank you so much for joining us. Our first and hopefully not last guest. And if no one else agrees to be on the show ever again, you're going to get the call again. And
I get the full-time spot.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate it. On behalf of Transcend Engagement, who we offer modern solutions in this remote world, and we are thought leaders in the engagement industry. Thank you for joining us. Charlie, have a great rest of your week. Liz?
Yes.